Undeletable, your latest short film, is about a woman named Emma who has to pass the news of her father's passing to his decade-long secret lover, which she does by leaving a very messy, painful, mistake-ridden voicemail. Ben, this film was inspired by your own experience doing the same thing. What's it been like reliving the story in pre and post production and now going to several film festivals with it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's funny the kind of
Hello, Ben and Chris. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
yeah, very good indeed. Thank you very much.
Of course. Congratulations on the awesome film festival run with Undeletable. How
Thank
is
you.
everything going with that, and how are you guys feeling?
Yeah, it's going great. It's been lovely to finally share the film with people. Like it's a story that's been in our heads for a surprising number of years. So it is very nice to finally have it out in the world, meeting other people. It's lovely.
Good. So, this is actually my first time interviewing a director duo, and I'm very interested to know how you guys' partnership started.
So we started out a long time ago. I'd bought a camera. I'd saved up and bought this camera to do animation with. Was what I thought I was going to spend my life doing was animation. And Ben had written a script with his mate Keith, and it was a live action thing. And he was like, "Hey, do you fancy spending all summer making this thing together?" And we did, and it was really good fun, just messing around in the local woods and with a bunch of friends, all dressing up and doing stupid things for a film that we sold at school, and it got banned by our school for being blasphemous. And that actually meant that suddenly we had this really good black market for it, and we could sell VHS tapes quite much better than they were going for before. And so we made a profit on that, and we thought, oh, this filmmaking malarkey is really easy. This will be fun, and started making short films, and then lost a lot of money making shorts for quite a long time.
Well, it's really great for you guys to be able to spin that, like, as children, essentially being like, we can't do this in school, but we can still make money. That's actually hilarious.
Yeah, so yeah, blame our headmaster entirely for headmistress rather for yeah, setting us off on this course.
Yeah.
How old were you guys?
Oh,
Uh,
teenagers, like
yeah,
like sort of what, 17, 18, something like that. It was
yeah,
yeah.
younger. I was 16, I think.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah. So that's sort of older teenagers, not actual like children, but you know.
Right, right. You guys were definitely the seniors of teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Undeletable, your latest short film, is about a woman named Emma who has to pass the news of her father's passing to his secret lover, his decade-long secret lover, which she does by leaving a very messy, painful, mistake-ridden voicemail. Ben, this film was inspired by your own experience doing the same thing. What's it been like reliving the story in pre and post production and now going to several film festivals with it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's funny the kind of the points where it's hit home and the points where it hasn't. So obviously, kind of like that moment in my life is sort of bound up with a lot of emotion. Um, Both kind of like, as I hope the film is, kind of intense and a bit kind of like the world moves sideways, and also quite funny in a bleak way. Kind of, one of those points in your life where you sort of have to laugh because there's no other option. And I did think kind of like, and then we filmed it on the exact stretch of road that I was walking up when I left the message, which is outside our old house, and it's like it had been when we got back there. It had been sort of a good sort of, I don't know, 5 7 years since I'd been there, and in the build up, I really thought that that would be quite emotional for me. That might be quite a thing, and we actually kind of like talked it through with Sophia, who plays Emma, and sort of said, potentially this might be quite intense for me, but the hope is that you can use that emotion as a kind of like creative springboard. And then when we got there, it was totally normal, and there was nothing weird about walking down that street again at all. And yeah, indeed, kind of like the first film that we did together, that ended with a shot on the very same stretch of road. And so even walking down the street with cameras and having the neighbours kind of look at us a bit funny was kind of like, yeah, I've been here before. Like even this is normal. So that wasn't strange at all. But I have to say, then kind of like when we the first kind of screening in the UK that we had, the first one that we were able to get to, yeah, there was a little moment in that when suddenly kind of like seeing that all kind of real and not real and there on the screen and sort of sharing it so much with everyone, it was a sudden moment of kind of like, oh, that's a bit odd. But yeah, I got over it.
Okay, so it was more intense just leading up to it than actually being there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think by the time you were there, you were just in the focused on making the thing. So yeah.
Totally. And Chris, what's the journey been like for you, and have you been able to relate to this story in any way?
Yeah, 100%. Because I was there for all of it as well. And yeah, it hits me in a different way, I think. Yeah, it was actually just it was something that Ben wrote, and I always thought was amazing script. Obviously, yeah. So sometimes we've made a whole bunch of different shorts where Ben has written something which has come out of his own weird foibles, and this was one of them. And it was always one that I was like, yeah, this is such a beautiful story, so well told that we've got to do right by it. And so that's one of the reasons that it took quite a long time for us to actually get around to making it, because that particular stretch of road, there's it felt like weather-wise we needed to get there when it was cold, and we needed to be there at a point when it would be sunny and cold so that we could get some backlight. And so I was putting loads of restrictions on when we could actually shoot it, and it kind of came down to a specific few weeks in a year, and so we'd miss it a few times. And then eventually, yeah, it was actually quite nice really, because it was kind of waiting for the right performer to do it with as well. And Sophia got in touch with us asking if we could work together, and we were like, well, we've got this thing in a drawer, and yeah, showed it to her, and first response was, oh, this is actually a bit scary, because it's a full-on thing for an actor to do. But yeah, having a chat with her about it was like, okay, yeah, no, she got to grips with it pretty quick, and then turned up on the day and she was smashing it out of the park from the get-go, which was amazing. And yeah, so it became a really nice shoot where you're just basically getting to play with it, which was good.
Speaking of Sophia, she only had herself to create and maintain this dramatic tension throughout the film. So what was it like giving her backstory, or was it more of a collaborative process to help her find the character within herself?
Yeah, it's very collaborative. I mean, again, part of obviously, it's drawn very much from reality, but I think part of the decision, which was, from it's always been written as a woman, and I think part of the decision of making that switch was that, although there's, again, sort of going back to that exact bit of road is obviously sort of linking it back to the real thing that happened, but then making the character definitely not me was a kind of way of letting the world in, of kind of like letting it become its own thing. So it's not just a kind of Crime Watch style reconstruction of an event. It's not kind of like, were you there on this night? Did you see this man making a terrible message? It's kind of like, no, it's a story. It has its own life, and then that kind of definitely sort of opens the doors for Sophia to come in and kind of, very clear. I told her all the story and kind of, gave her some more kind of family history and backstory, but just so she knew where it had come from. And then it was never, it was very much kind of up to her to then create the character and bring herself to it and change it and shape it and make it her own, which she did, sublimely.
She did. It was really beautiful. I watched it twice, and honestly, I would love to do it again, because I feel like every single time you watch, you just pick up on more of those little hidden gems within the film.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There are actually these moments in the film that I really liked where Emma she kind of loses herself a little bit on the phone, and she stops, but the camera keeps going. She collects herself and then catches back up to the camera, essentially. Why did you guys choose that?
So we're always, we knew we always wanted to do a thing that was just a single take, and we knew we wanted to keep her captured within the frame. But there are times where you're kind of, the nice thing when you're doing single take stuff is actually you're working out the edit in camera, and so you get to choose the shot size that you're actually going to at the point that you want to go to it. And those particular moments, it felt right to leave her alone that first time where the emotion really cracks out. That actually felt really nice to drift away and actually sort of fuzz the focus as well, and not actually quite hit that, and let her have that brief moment of privacy. And then the next time it's all for laughs, really, where you're kind of like, okay, we are doing the same thing, you are stopping, but now it's a very different experience. It was working it out whilst we were going as well. It wasn't like we knew exactly what we wanted to hit when we were going to hit it, but that's like part of the joy of working together in a small crew as well. It's just I was on camera and Ben was doing sound, and then working with Sophia, it's just keeping it very, very simple meant that it was you could play with it, you could be a bit more freeform.
We could be really responsive to each other, and so we could really read what Sophia needed and what she was enjoying, and we could change things up to suit what she was giving us, which is always really nice. Like obviously we've made films with much bigger crews, and there's a joy in that because you get to work with a vast number of incredible people, but it does slow you down, and there are times when just like the speed of thought, you kind of go, you're there with an actor and you're like, oh, the actor's ready to go and the actor wants to do this, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. And then you turn around and there's like 13,000 people who have to come through and check something first, and it's like, oh, okay, that moment's gone. Can we hold on to that somehow? So it's really nice to work in a space where that freedom, that fluidity is just there.
Yeah, there's always something quite nice about, like, I find I really enjoy operating the camera, but it depends on what you're doing. Like, so something like this where you're getting to concentrate entirely on one person and their performance, then you get into a really nice flow of emotionally, I know where I want the camera to be. And sometimes when you're working with crew, I'm, sort of putting a camera operator back by their jacket to be like, no, I want you further back, or I'm pushing you in because I want to be closer. So operating on your own is always kind of quite nice for being able to just be there with the actor straight away. But it very much depends on what you're shooting. So something like this is great, but bigger stuff where you're kind of having to concentrate on more things. As a director, you can kind of not actually see half the frame if all you're doing is concentrating on the operating. But this one, it worked very well.
Yeah. Was it just you three on set?
So we had two assistants who were helping pull us back and make sure that we didn't get run over by the cars, because we hadn't locked off the road or anything like that. We wanted the world to intrude on us whilst we were shooting, and so we just needed to have a couple of people for safety. But we wanted to keep it quite. We just really wanted to keep it very simple, and part of that thing as well of just being able to just sit in the emotion with it altogether felt like the right choice on this one. Letting the world happen felt really important as well. That we kind of like, we had a couple of takes where technically it was perfect and it was all kind of like, I've got the focus like spot on all the way through this, and this is all and actually felt flat if the world wasn't doing something at you. Like, if the cars weren't going past, like, or the builders on the when we're walking up, who are working away on a house that we're going past, or a whole bunch of different things happened whilst we were shooting. Like, there's a couple of takes where some really fun passers-by went by. There was like a peloton of bikes went past on one take, which for ages was like, oh, should we use that one? Just literally because of the peloton of bikes. But this was definitely the best performance. So
I love how much thought you guys put into that. And letting the world happen around you. I didn't even think of it from that perspective, but there have been so many times where I'm like in a car and I will see someone talking on the phone and I'm like, I wonder what they're talking about. And it could be like something as heavy as that.
No, I agree. I often have those. I love, yeah, kind of like that. It's not really eavesdropping because you're not really hearing anything, but just those like when you like look out the window of the bus or like when you're on the tube
Mhm.
and you kind of like you go past the backs of houses and you just get those split second like glimpses of other people's
Yeah,
lives. It's like what's
yeah,
happening there? That's always delightful.
Yeah,
truly.
the
It's like a
uh,
reminder that you're not alone.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. London's amazing for that, for like especially evening time where you're kind of just as the light is starting to go down, no one's closed their curtains yet, and so they all turn the lights on, and you're kind of on the train going very very slowly home, just going past, seeing inside loads of different houses, different people, their lives going on, which yeah, the girl on the train.
Mm.
That Emily Blunt film that was originally the book was in London. It was kind of like really getting that experience. So it was strange seeing the film version of that, where you're kind of like, okay, this is one specific house out in the middle of nowhere, where she's looking through that one window, and you're like, yeah, London's like the opposite of that, where you're just literally, yeah, you're going to get to see 300 different people's lives in about 10 minutes.
Wow, that's very different than the New York experience because like all of the trains are underground. And so it's like a visiting a little bit. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very, very cool to be let into you guys' world in that way. Moving back and forth through tones is something that you guys have become masters of. How did you approach calibrating the tone in the editing process?
That's a very good question. I mean, obviously, with this, there wasn't really. I mean, in the editing process was watching the takes back with Sophia, and choosing the best one. But as Chris said before, kind of like I think we did have. I think we were all surprised. The three of us were surprised at kind of like realizing that we needed to edit it on the day as we shot, and that we needed to kind of like, so much of editing is about pacing, is about finding, like you say, those shifts between the tone. And if you were cutting between lots of different angles, that's why you would be choosing those shots. You'd be thinking kind of like, well, actually here, I want to cut to the wide because I want to get that feels funnier or it feels more serious or, whatever the emotion is. And so, yeah, we definitely found that kind of like after the first couple of runs through with Sophia that we're kind of like, oh, okay, look, here are the things that we have to do in camera, but also here are the gear shifts that you need to pull out for us. It's kind of like, at this point in the performance, we need to have genuine, like heartbreaking emotion. But by here, how are we going to get you to the point where you're exasperated enough that it starts becoming comically angry. It starts becoming, and then having reached that kind of height of kind of, I'm really pissed off with this now. How do we then like pull that energy out from under you to get back to this sense of kind of like grief and loss and kind of that sort of awareness, that sort of realization that she has at the end of kind of like how life is unrepeatable and that you don't get a second shot at anything and that you do live in a line and you never get to go backwards. Like there's just footprints behind you, but you can't erase them. And that is kind of like reaching that sort of end was definitely kind of like it's a journey, and it's again it's why it's such a privilege to work with an actor like Sophia who can give you that, who can find kind of believably the movement in the one take, kind of across all of those edges. So yeah, it's sort of I guess it took the three of us to kind of know what we wanted, but yeah.
It's lucky you didn't explain it that way when we were thinking of shooting it, because I would have been like, oh, we've got to shoot it. It's got to be snowing. And then that would have reduced us right down to like, you know,
Yeah.
One
four
day.
days. And yeah. I mean, like, we haven't had proper snow for donkey's yonks here in Britain. So,
No, and you
yeah.
walking backwards with the camera on a gimbal in the snow, I think definitely would have resulted in an injury. So
Yeah.
Was there a shift from the original script to what you guys are touring at film festivals right now?
no, we did sort of a bunch of passes on the script, and
Yeah. Over the years, you kept tweaking it.
yeah,
Yeah. But the shape, I think, was fairly similar.
the shape's fairly similar. And again, like I honestly, have never gone back to check. Like I feel like Sophia is sort of very close to what was written, but she might have busked some of it, I don't think I would have noticed. She definitely, like what she delivered is absolutely the essence of what we were trying to achieve. So, yeah, it's true to what we wanted it to be, and that's what it is. That's what the world gets.
As a duo, what is something that you both do to maintain chemistry and trust, or just creative decision making?
What a beautiful question. What is something that we do, Chris?
Well, we always talk everything through a lot,
Yeah.
obviously, and there was a point in the past, so a long time ago, when we were making films, where, because we kind of started out and I was kind of the camera operator, and for a long time it would just be like, okay, well, Ben's written the words, so whatever he thinks those words should be, that's what it'll be. And then I eventually wrote a script and showed it to Ben, and we started making it. We both hadn't quite realized that we had completely different ideas of what was going on in the story. So I thought one of the characters was dead, and Ben had no idea that that's what I was thinking. And so we had a big old argument about it, and talked about it and figured it out, and that made me feel braver and being able to give him proper feedback, and that actually really helped, and you're kind of like, we started talking properly about everything that we do and have done ever since, and it really helps when working with other people, because it stops it from being, these are the words on the page and it must be this, and instead it's, what I'm trying to do is. And so, because you're always just talking about what you're trying to do, it gets easier for other people to come in and go, oh, well, why haven't you thought of doing that instead? Because that would bring that across better. And so the more that we're able to think about our intentions, I think the better the process goes, really, and it helps, with everyone all the way down the line.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's really true, and I think also, again, it's sort of because we generally write together. For a long time we wrote literally in the room together, and at the moment it's slightly more over the internet for reasons, reasons of geography. But it's kind of like, the process for most of our writing is very kind of like just talking it back and forth, and it's very kind of like fluid. And then it's sort of reached a point where that was sort of like the only way that we thought we could work, and
And it was really difficult in COVID.
yeah, it was really difficult in COVID. But
Yeah,
it also it got difficult, also just because, like, it's like there reached points where there were stories that one or other of us wanted to tell that the other one was less drawn to, and it became a bit like, oh, well, you're not allowed to do that. It's like the only things that we're allowed to do are the ones that we're both totally dedicated to. And then I think that got a bit kind of stifling, and actually kind of being able to kind of step back a bit and go, well, actually, I don't want to write this, but you write it. And the freedom of that, I think, has then weirdly kind of enabled us to kind of come back together and write even more intensely together, and kind of like feel like, kind of like, well, okay, yeah, this something is absolutely the two of us, and this something works in a different way, and here's how and it's like actually feeling the ways in which the collaboration can be, the collaboration itself can be fluid, and it's kind of like, yeah, on this one, like, these will be my words, and on this one these will be your words, and on this one these will be our words, and it's like, it's just whatever it is in the moment, whatever feels right. And I think also, like, on set we sort of have this, because we do so much prep before we get on set, but we have this sort of sense between us of kind of like who sees each moment, and it is each moment, it's not sort of scene by scene or anything, it's like who's got like the vision for each moment, and then we sort of move quite kind of fluidly between kind of who is in control in that moment. And so it's kind of like at any point it'll be one of us who is just that little bit more kind of like, no, this is what needs to happen, like this is where the magic is. And the crew, cast and crew don't really feel the difference anymore, because we're so adept at kind of moving between it. But I think it works really well, because it sort of enables you, one, to kind of like, have that bit of sort of straightforward input, but it also means that you get to be there cheering the other person on, which I think is really, like, I think that's it's really nice in those beats where you go kind of like, oh, he's really got that, he's really nailed that, and it's like you get to kind of you sort of be the first audience for it as well. So you have that kind of instant kind of like, yeah, this has worked. I know what you want it to be, and I can see that it is, and like that is really. And there are times when you kind of go, where Chris has kind of pushed me and been kind of like, I don't think you're happy with this. Stop people pleasing. Stop kidding yourself that this is going to be okay. Like, let's go again. I know that there's something else you want out of this. And it's kind of like, I know for myself that there are situations where on my own I would have just gone, yeah, no, that's fine. Let's move on. That's fine. We're never going to get it. It's fine, And then I've spent years kicking myself, so.
That is so beautiful. So you would say between each project, like, it changes. You guys just kind of are like open and listening to each other, just seeing who needs to take control of this certain part at this certain time.
Yeah, and I think it's like obviously it's taken a very long time, but it's quite nice to be at the point where, like, with other people there probably is still some ego, but between us, I don't feel that there is. It's like
Yeah, it's something nice about being able to work with anyone where you're able to relinquish the controls for a while and go on, have a try. Like to not be sat there going, no, I have to be in control of the machine at all points. But to actually be able to just be like, yeah, let's see where your thoughts lead to. Like we do this a lot, and obviously there's no editing in Undeletable, but a lot of the time when we're editing, we all do something that will be a bit unusual in the edit, and the other one will be like, what are you doing here? And we'll point out, oh no, it's this thing over there, and you're like, oh okay, I had no idea, I wasn't looking there. But as soon as you start he's realizing, oh, that's your intention, that's what you're trying to bring out, then it's all like, okay, well, how do we actually construct it so that we do look exactly where you want the audience to look, because that's the interesting thing. And yeah, that always feels like a really great way of going in terms of trying to put together your film, that you're kind of like, we are looking for the weird bits.
Yeah, finding the thing that makes it new and fresh. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And it also, like, it does, I hope and I think that it does kind of spill out of us into everyone we're working with. So again, like working with Sophia, it was very easy to kind of go, this is a deeply personal thing. It's yours now. Play with it. Like it is what you want it to be. And like Chris, told a story earlier about kind of dragging camera people around, but I should point out that he also like that kind of like freedom to play and encouragement is something that like particularly like our longtime collaborator Ollie Russell is kind of like that freedom is something that he absolutely has, which is why he likes working with us, and why he'll forgive the occasional tug on the shirt collar.
Festival buzz can be incredibly validating, but it also creates a different level of expectation. How are you guys managing the tension between celebrating the high moments and then strategically thinking about the film's future?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's festivals, I don't know, it's you just sort of happy for every time that someone says yes, really, because even when you've got a short that is getting good traction, you're still looking at a lot of no's along the way. Like I don't know any short film that has just been accepted everywhere and everybody's loved it. That's just not the way of it. And so
I John's film mainly, like that seems to be,
yeah.
But
If you got Ben Whishaw, then yeah, you'll be all right. But
I'm sure Tom will tell us of all the no's that were actually there. But yeah.
Yeah. But then, yeah, in terms of, we definitely want to get the film seen by as many people as we can. And so, we're obviously loving doing the festival circuit, but then we really want to try and get it seen, get it online, get it out there to be watched by as many people, because Sophia's performance is just so good that you're kind of like, it deserves to be seen. So, so we're that's like the next step for it, really, is to try and see how we can get it seen by as many eyeballs as possible, not just in person.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. Like, we started in short film, and we both love the genre. We both love the kind of constraint and the beauty of like really moving an audience in a tiny space of time. But it's like, since our first short films, we've now, we've made a feature film, we've got other feature films that should be happening quite soon, I hope. And, we've done TV, and we've done, it's like so it's kind of like we're not, so many short films are made to kind of prove a point, and I feel like we're just coming back to the format because we love it, and we're sort of here to just tell. We have other short films. That I mean, this is the sort of second short film that we've made in the past couple of years, and we've got quite a few others that we want to make in the near future. And I think it's something that we will always come back to because it's such a great kind of playground, and we really respect the art form. But yeah, I don't. It's quite nice being at festivals and not really, and only caring what the audience think. Not really caring what the outcome is because it doesn't really, it's not there as a kind of career mark for us anymore, which is quite nice.
It is lovely, actually. The whole short films, especially, there's always you have this desire for validation when you're first starting out, especially because you're kind of you're really hoping that this is going to make or break or do something for your career, and now we're kind of like we just like making them, and so then you're like, yeah, we just want people to see them, and then that sense of validation, the desire for it feels a little less. Like obviously there's still some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still nice when people like it, for sure.
This is a little bit off topic, but I feel like I was listening to you guys and it just made me think of it. But starting out, most people do start with short films, and it seems like that's a little bit more difficult just because you don't have as much time to completely tell a story. Do you think that it would be easier for people who are starting to do something longer if they had the resources and whatnot?
I think, yeah, actually, you kind of go, the ability, if you were able to be like, okay, we're going to spend, a few weeks doing a thing and we'll see what it ends up being. And it might well be rubbish, like there's plenty of people that have made a first feature film that then disowned and have never actually told anyone that they've got. Like, Quentin Tarantino, I can't remember what his first film's called, but that's the one that's never talked about. No, it's not Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of filmmakers that have done that where it's like, yeah, I tried and this is all the ways that I messed up. And actually just that thing of, like, we always used to laugh about when you listen to feature filmmakers talk about them being on set, and it's like, yeah, the first week, you just got to get into, like, the rhythm of it, and then after that, that's when the good stuff happens. And you're like, on a short film, you're going, we've only got the first day. Like,
yeah,
this is, and literally you're going on a feature film, you're just going like, yeah, the first day will be rubbish, and just, try not to do anything too hard. Like, you want to let people, sort of, slowly ease in, and and you're like, with a short, you're like, no, this is it. This is the worst day to be trying to make something that, has to be perfect in that one go.
I think also in the finished thing, it's like, I think it's easier to watch a 90-minute film that has, half an hour, 40 minutes of pretty poor stuff where it doesn't really work. But if it does work at the start and works at the end, like, you can watch, I've watched films that have been awful until the last 10 minutes. And if that last 10 minutes absolutely lands, then you're just like, I'm glad I was here. Like, what a masterpiece. This is incredible. Or at least I enjoyed it. Well done, But it's like, with a short film, you don't have any space to kind of make those mistakes. It's kind of like, if a 5-minute film is it's got 5 bad minutes in it, it's like, that's a bad film, that's a nightmare, so it's, I think I agree with you. I think it is funny that kind of like you instinctively start out in short films thinking kind of like, well, I'm having to do less, so therefore it's easier, but actually less is hard. Like, less is the real skill.
So like, it's never easy. It's never easy making anything. But that thing of shorts, to be able to feel like you're not, I suppose as much as it is that sense of having to try and hit perfection, which feels so difficult to try and do, that in a way, where you're kind of like, when you're making a feature, you're going, okay, well, it's all the parts that are going to add up to something, and there'll be moments that are like, that's an amazing scene that we've just done there, that's an amazing performance, that's the thing that we need to highlight, and this is workmanlike, and it will be fine, and we'll get through it as quickly as we can. And with a short, it's always really nice to be able to write one and shoot one where you're able to feel like it's just it's the fun moment, that it's kind of like, yeah, it's just coming out just like that. It's like there is something about having that sense of ease that I think really helps a lot of the time with a short, where you're kind of like, it kind of does want to feel like there is this moment of inspiration. And different ways of trying to get into that space is, really important, I think.
What's been the most valuable piece of feedback or conversation you've had during this or any film festival run?
Wow.
So from festivals themselves, the one that I'll bring up is so the feature film that we made is called Nina Forever, and we thought it was the most out there script that we had ever written, and it was kind of like, we just didn't care what anybody thought we were doing. We weren't trying to hit any genre, and it was just like, this is just coming straight out of our heads, and it felt wild, and everybody that read it was like, whoa, this is crazy. And we put an edit together, and there's a guy who runs the London Short Film Festival here in Britain, and he used to live just down the road from me, and we were on the train home after this first test screening that we did whilst we were doing the edit, and it was a bit quiet, and then about halfway on the way home, he was like, it's a bit conventional. And it was like, I was not expecting anyone to say that about this film. But actually, what he was saying was totally right. And it was like, we need to cut out all of the explanations. We had tried wherever we possible. Like a lot of time when you do like a test screening, especially, you have this thing where you ask the audience, did you understand everything? And that's the worst question ever, because you're just like, you don't. Understanding's not the important thing here. It's not that we need to make sure that you know entirely the character's CV and background, checks. You're just like, it's what did it feel like? Did you feel gripped? Did you get bored? Like, understanding is meh. So we started taking out all of the stuff where we were over explaining, and it made the film so much better. So that's my bit of advice from a film festival folk.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same one. I should point out that I was once in the pub with Phil, and the conversation turned to comforting movies, like the film that you turn to, again and again to kind of like give you that warm hug feeling, that kind of like, this is where my safe space. And Phil's was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, like when he describes it as a bit conventional, like, that's slightly the context of where Phil's coming from. But no, he was absolutely right, and it's something that kind of like we both come back to a lot, that thought of kind of like, why are you, it's less about kind of like, do they understand, but more, are they asking interesting questions? It's like, what are the questions that the audience are asking? Because it's like there's like interesting questions, and then there's the sort of like, what's happening? And it's like, that's a bad question, like, what? I don't understand what's going on, but it's like, that's pulling you out of the story. But if you don't have any questions, I don't think you have a story. So, brilliant advice from a brilliant cineast.
Yeah, a lot of the time, so short film, people who dig short film, they keep watching them. You're kind of like, okay, you have a real severe problem with film, and you need looking at. But actually, you're kind of like, they're the right people to be asking, to be getting to watch your stuff, because they are totally there for their love. They're not there for the money. They're not there for the career progression. You're just like, you've chosen the weirdest possible way through life to be like, I'm just going to watch as many short films as possible. All fair play to you. And there is just true love there, I think, which is always really exciting to meet people that have that, that it's kind of like they understand this medium in a way that is just it's quite beautiful to behold, seeing people that just really dig it.
Rolling back sort of out of the festival circuit, another piece of advice that we both keep going back to was, again, on when we were doing Nina, we had a couple of sessions with another editor. So we edited our film, and the edit was sort of not quite working, and we saw this editor, John Harris, and he the shortest version of what he said to us was kind of like, just try it. Like, we'd had all these notes, and some of them we were sort of quite resistant to, because it's kind of like, this feels like this note is going against our vision, and like it's going to destroy what our film is. And he was like, but we're not cutting celluloid anymore. It's like, there is no cost to you to try a note and see what it is like. And we then went back and we just tried all the bad notes that we'd been given, all the notes that we'd been kind of like, I'm not going to do this. And some of them were amazing, and some of them were kind of like, oh shit, that really does actually work. And some of them were awful, and we were right. But it was like, it was so much easier having done them to then turn around to the people giving us those notes and be kind of like, look, we have tried it. It doesn't actually work. This is why. And it's kind of like, oh, suddenly it's not an argument about your ego. It's just an argument about the story. And I think that, again, kind of working as an editor for other people, you often do end up kind of stuck in these arguments about what you should do, rather than just trying and seeing what that works. You know, obviously, you know, sometimes you just have to go, okay, we're not going to try that because it's going to take ages and it's clearly the wrong thing. But you know, but generally speaking, it's kind of like, I think we've got much better at just trying.
Yeah, you never say no.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's like the improv thing, isn't it? Where it's yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
and.
yes, and yeah, rather than no.
Yeah.
No, because, you know, that which is too often,
the
especially when
screenwriter's version, no, because.
yeah, which probably goes on longer than an improv scene, but yeah, in a much more boring fashion.
What is next for you guys?
So hopefully features. We've got a couple of features that we're hoping one of them will go next year, and we're just starting to go out to cast with them both. So two different scales. Like one's a spy thriller, which is fairly big, and then another one which is a lot smaller and more contained, and something that we could crack out in a fun way that we sort of did with the same way we did with Nina. And then a whole bunch of other stuff besides as well. Like we've got a bunch of different TV things that we're pitching on, and we love directing with other people and editing with other people. So we're kind of still working with lots of other folks, and doing fiction and documentary and more besides. So yeah, just keeping our fingers in as many different things as possible.
Yeah. I think our own stuff is like, you mentioned earlier, that kind of like that shift in that sort of seamless move between sort of comedy and tragedy. And I think that we do a lot of genre work, and we like playing in genre, and we're very good at kind of taking a genre and breathing life into it and making it feel like a fresh thought. And I think a lot of that is also this love of kind of like always having this dark sense of humor, but also always having that grounded in real emotion. And I think that kind of is what sort of is always there across all the projects, you know. So that's sort of the flavour.
Ben and Chris, thank you guys so much for speaking with me. I had a time. I feel like I learned so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been a really lovely chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, I'm glad.